if on a daily basis on Freshly Pressed, we give you an update on security situation or insecurity in Nigeria. And this is, I don't know if it's positive or negative, but this is reports from Katsina State. Insecurity, Katsina police seize 320 Okadas, arrest 186 suspects, according to the Punch newspaper. So there had been a curfew, a dusk to dawn curfew, and this is just the police arresting those who flouted the conditions of the curfew. Can you please take us to the story, Cheta?
Basically, the captain. Oh, by the way, for the record, I ran around in that area last week. So yes, there is a ban on bikes,
Okay.
starting from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. Basically, um, is it solving the problem? Not really. Yeah, it's as usual the Nigerian attitude of applying plaster to a very deep cut. That's it doesn't solve anything.
Mm.
The conditions that have caused the issues are still very much around.
Yeah.
We haven't tackled what is causing the rise in banditry, which is deep unemployment. So let's look at one number. GDP per capita in Katsina State is $1,037. This is way below the national average, which is that it's less than half the national average. National average is about $2,200. Do bike bans work? The evidence suggests that they don't. You ban bikes.
Yeah.
What happens is there's actually a corresponding increase in crime because people will suddenly have nothing to do.
Mm.
They use those bikes as a means to eat. Katsina State is a huge state. I mean, I think that too many people in Lagos don't have an idea of just how large the distances are in many states in the north.
That's very true.
Katsina State is a huge state. Many of the people cannot afford cars. Even the golf cars that are very common in, say, Kano or Sokoto, by the time you are getting to Funtua, Katsina itself, you don't see as many. And what is the biggest issue in the region? What's the biggest security issue in Nigeria generally right now? Unemployment.
Mm.
So you're effectively kicking people off the only thing that they can do to put food on the table, and then you expect, what do you call it? You expect that crime will somehow magically reduce. What do you want people to do? The government has to think. The biggest security issue in Nigeria right now is not Boko Haram, it's not banditry in the northwest, it's not Niger Delta militancy, it's unemployment. We have too many young men and women who have nothing to do. But what do we have? For 5 quarters, we can't even get the unemployment numbers of the country.
All right.
Because we are playing politics with it. I mean, it's ridiculous. Doesn't even begin to describe all of this.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm really glad you talked about the fact that the biggest security threat in Nigeria is not terrorism as we see it, but unemployment, and of course by that poverty. We talk about the level of poverty in the country, and unemployment has a direct impact on that. Thanks a lot for your comment.
Emma Koka said on WhatsApp, I understand why bikes have to be impounded if you flout curfews, but we do not have to kill every long animal because we're looking for snakes. This will even spike crimes because of lack of legitimate economic activity. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you very much, MI. But I think it's important to note that it's not a permanent ban. It's as a result of the current insecurity, the status of insecurity in Katsina State. We look forward to it being reviewed in the coming days. Move on to our next story, Tunde.
Something I didn't say, sorry.
Yes.
The flow of small arms in that region, ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We spoke about proliferation of arms.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was last week, one of the headlines.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on to our next story, and this is on audit. Again, this is another story that seems to be recurring, Tunde, in the news recently. It seems like the Auditor General of the Federation is not taking any prisoners when it comes to audited accounts of NDAs and public institutions. This report in the New Telegraph State audit, Rex gave Yabatech 30-day ultimatum to submit accounts. The the rector of the Yaba College of Technology, Engineer Obafemi Owoseni Omokunwe, is set to submit the school's accounts to the Office of the Auditor General of the Federation in 30 days. Please take us through the story.
Okay, so this is House of Reps performing the oversight function,
Yes.
where they're supposed to look at different aspects of the country really, and see that things run as they should. Clearly, things haven't run as they should, is why it has come to the members of the House in this committee to put their foot down, so to say, and or insist if things run properly, then it wouldn't be to a level where they're even asking for the audits to be submitted. The period I find interesting, 2014 to 2018, is a period of 4 years.
Yes.
Right. If I'm not mistaken, and anyone out there can correct me, I'm not sure the current rector has been in position for 4 years. If I'm not mistaken, I think he's not been there for more than 2. So that's an indication, likely, of how the institution itself is run and the practices and habits. But even if he has only been there for 2 years, they haven't submitted audited reports in 2 years is bad enough. This is meant to be submitted every year, and there's supposed to be deadlines and cutoffs. It's an indication. Now, you said they're not taking any, the Auditor General is not taking any prisoners, but he says that as punishment, they're going to withhold, or they propose to withhold their allocation for 2020 as an example to other MDAs and ministries of the government. So there are many of them. This is almost it's prevalent, unfortunately, within the civil service. It's the reason, and it's one of those. It's easy to look at politicians and point at misdemeanors or mismanagement, but a lot of the civil service is very close, or is not far. It's not far behind. It's the reason why. I mean, I'll try to anonymize it. These institutions, often when you attain positions of leadership, become people's lives change, essentially, because of the amounts and funds that are available to them. But you only need to visit this institution to realize that the funds that have been allocated to the school, you struggle to see it translate, right? You struggle to see it. You struggle to see it translate, and very often these officers, you see how their lives change. Personally, personal stories. I've known someone personally who's held this position and this post, and in discussions with someone else who knows someone who's held the post more recently, couldn't believe that the individual I mentioned had held the post in the past had ever held the post, because he saw how the lives of the current people he knows had changed. Yeah, do you understand? But it was a different time when the country ran a little better. Corruption was a little less, people were not as brazen with it. Look, when you don't submit audited reports, it's an indication of many things.
Of course.
One of which is that, and the consequence of which is that it's easier to hide mismanagement and easier to hide theft. And it's rife.
Thank you very much. Now, talking about the rector did take office in 2017. So the previous rector was Dr. Mrs. M.K. Ladipo, who was rector from 2009 to 2017. So that covers the period that is being reviewed, it's being investigated for not being audited. I hope she would be called in for questioning as well.
She should have to, because the man was there for only 1 year of this period.
Yes.
Yeah, if you notice.
All right. Thank you very much, Tunde.
All right, let's go to this next story. But before that, a quick look at the messages. Zorin on WhatsApp says, your analysis, Cheta, on Okada, is that if that is a correspondence to crime, does that still apply to Lagos? And Timothy says, greetings, Lagos and other states alike have just lost revenue to transportation or from transportation and registration, etc. Also, do they have the same transportation facilities like the UK to efficiently palliate the working class transportation and unemployment demands? That's largely lacking. Cheta, this story from the Guardian newspaper sparks interest because it said that the Lagos state government is, they are being proactive or reactive in this sense, closely monitoring coronavirus, or the states for coronavirus indications. Your thoughts on this?
It's the Minister of Health visited, and him and the Lagos State Commissioner of Health took a tour of the Federal Medical Center in Oshodi and the Biobank Center at Mainland Hospital, Yaba. I like the proactiveness. It's necessary. The question that I want to ask is, in terms of readiness, do we have the preparedness levels that we had in 2014 when the Ebola outbreak happened? So, for example, one of the things that I remember back then was in churches. At least I used to go to church, still do. There were announcements made as to what we should do. I've not heard such announcements yet.
Right.
The coronavirus does not worry me as much as Ebola did, and the reason is that the coronavirus has a fatality rate thus far of just 2%. Yes, they are human beings, but just looking at it from the cold academic lens of numbers, Lassa fever, which is an ongoing outbreak, has a fatality rate of 1%. So so basically they're in the same ballpark. Ebola, on the other hand, had a fatality rate of 20, or has a fatality rate of 25, anywhere between 25 and 90%. Now that's deadly by any definition. Now there is an outbreak of an unknown disease currently in Benue State, which the National Center for Disease Control says that they're investigating. It appears, based on what a Benue State senator reported, Abamoro, it appears that has a fatality rate of 15%. If that is the case, that is the one that we need to be looking at. While for Corona, what we need to be looking at, we need to actually get the Minister of Petroleum office asked to read. My apologies. to really look at this, because the coronavirus is actually having an effect on all markets.
Minister of Petroleum or Minister of State of Petroleum? Because we know who the Minister of Petroleum is.
I think Cheta was deliberate in saying the Minister of Petroleum. Go ahead.
He didn't want to mention the first name, so sorry.
Basically, it's having an effect on oil prices closed on Friday, if memory serves me, at less than our benchmark.
Yep.
That's a problem. So that is the effect coronavirus is having on us. I have, and you know how difficult it is for me to express faith in the competence of this government, but I don't have any fears that they will not be able to handle coronavirus if it gets here. I don't think it will get here. I think that it's final, that it has reached its peak and it's beginning to. It's the long-term effect on the economy that is my issue. Then, of course, the unknown disease that has broken out in Benue State, because those are the banana skins. Benue State right now is a conflict zone. Such things can spread without control in a conflict zone very easily. That's the one we should be looking at.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Cheta. I think it speaks widely to the way we respond to disease outbreaks. So it's coronavirus today. Yesterday was Ebola. We have Lassa fever, and then the new one. So it's not just about the individual diseases, but our response to it really key.
And then capacity for research, testing, identification of strains of disease, anything like that. So we really need to ramp it up. So
thank you very much. We got some comments. Bimbo Mano says, I think you do us and our state a disservice by the comments on the Okada restrictions. He wasn't actually referring to Lagos State. He was referring to Katsina State and the curfew ban on Okadas. Perhaps it can be related to what's happening here, but let's please focus.
Context.
Yes, let's focus on the Katsina issue.
Eitara Quadri says on WhatsApp, nowadays witches and wizards who suck blood and not those that we traditionally knew when we were growing up. They are those that convert public funds meant to preserve Nigerian lives, i.e. politicians and those who top them, civil servants. Eitara, thank you for your message. And we'll have this other one from Yemi Adeoye from Surulere, Aguda. It said the ban on Okada somewhat has reduced the Agbero on the street a bit, but the palliative should have been in place before the ban on restrictions checkmate crime. 2, police should not unnecessarily make this a money-making venture, but they should do their work well. 3, LASMA are just for traffic control. They should not take laws into their hands and turn themselves into police or FRSC.
I kind of prefer the Agberos on the road, Cha. You know, there's an economy to disorder and corruption. When you take them off the road, what are they doing?
Well, how do you track the informal collections?
And then
It's-
perhaps you
but
should,
they're there. They're collecting informally, but they're there on the road
so you
collecting.
can see them. Perhaps we should look for a better way to
I'd
actually.
rather they stay there.
All
your
right, let's
face.
move
Yeah.
on to the next one, Tunde. And this is still on security, and this is more regional security. Amotekun personnel. Southwest governors to write the Inspector General of Police for gun license. I remember, Tunde, on the show, we discussed if Amotekun was planning to have arms, if they would be armed, and what kind of arms they would have. This addresses that, and would like to take you through this story from the Punch newspaper, Lagos. Please go through it, Tunde.
Yeah, and they're unraveling the plans ever so gradually,
Yes.
from buttons, as we had assumed, to
Yeah.
now applying for gun licenses.
Do you
And
think
this,
first?
and
Do you
this
think it would
worries
be
me.
granted?
It may be with the way it's. I mean, come on, let's recall, cast our minds back to when this initially came out, and the Attorney General said this is illegal, and you saw the amount of the support and the clout that was put behind this, and the Attorney General, in essence, backed off and said, okay, let's see. So I won't be surprised. They have very serious backing, and every region is taking a position. So I will not be surprised if this is granted, and it is super worrying. I mean, anytime, and the other thing is that this initiative has cross-party support. It is surprising. Anytime politicians come together and agree on something, please, population, be worried. If both parties can agree on a thing, just be worried about, because they sort of have an idea of how they intend to use it. I was listening to an interview where if it's such a thing, I think the PDP Southwest chairman, I don't know if they have regional chairman like that, was talking about and saying that he's in support of it. That for him it was the police can't cover, and he was focusing a lot on the forests for whatever reason, that the police can't police the hinterlands, can't police the forests, and I'm like, okay, unless you're recruiting hunters, and even how many hunters do we have to walk the forest? How are you going to police the forest? You need equipment. Let's remember the fight with Boko Haram when they ran into the forest. It was a haven for that very reason. You need equipment. You need over air. You need helicopters and things of that nature that I don't think Amotekun will have, right? To police large areas. It's not by equipping a militia force that will be on ground. Yes, there'll be more bodies, but I mean, for me, it's foreboding, especially if they're granted arms. Nothing nothing that has been described is new. It's all been described to us before. The reason behind it, the AGF being opposed to it, but it's passing through very speedily. Now, the state governors, each state is passing laws to give this legal backing.
Yes.
And the speed at which they're doing it is another thing that there's so many issues plaguing these states and plaguing the Southwest that hasn't gotten the type of
Quick
attention and this
response.
quick response that this has gotten. But this is passing through very quickly. Now they're applying for a gun license. I mean, there's the other story that sort of ties into it, and I'll share other areas of concern from it.
So like you mentioned, the proposal is to get it passed before the end of this week.
Yes.
So as early as the end of this week,
yeah.
we would have that bill passed, all things being equal.
Yeah.
And it's after they've passed it that they said they will send an application
Yeah,
for
we'll
a
send an
gun
application,
license
yes.
to the AGF. We'll keep our eyes on this, but like you mentioned, perhaps we should have a robust conversation around if this has been thought out properly, all the errors, all the I's dotted, T's crossed, so that we know that we're having a tight bill and not just something that's rushed. Thank you.
If they're mulling the thought of applying for a gun license, doesn't it go against the original objective for setting up Amotekun as a regional security outfit to complement the efforts of the police, provide intelligence gathering primarily, and not have to deal with arms?
This is where it was always going to go. Always. I mean, anything else that we're told to, like, look at all the think of all the other paramilitary groups. They carry arms, and they shouldn't, in my view, or there is a risk to them doing so.
Which is a direct link to this next one today. Northern governors reject regional security outfit. Akashafa. They said, well, it was set out to fail from the start. The Northern governors kicked against the initiative and outrightly rejected it. What are your thoughts regarding their reasons?
Okay, so let me start from this angle. So we all remember, part of Boko Haram's origin story, right? Part of the origin story for Boko Haram was that it was a militia group for Bauchi, the Bauchi State governor, and then it started to extend its services, so to say, to other neighboring northern governors. Yes, as a militia security group. That militia security group, obviously funding from the government and the governors, doing the governor's bidding, that militia group very often, as happens, grew out of control, right, and became what is Boko Haram today. So let's say the northern governors sort of have a bit of experience in empowering groups of this nature, right? So you can understand why they may be a little wary. For me, all of this with Amotekun in the southwest, Shege Kafasa in the north, and then proposals in the east as well. The country isn't, to me, it doesn't seem to be heading. We're not moving towards a common goal and in the same direction. It is worrying and it is scary when regions. We're saying all the reasons as security. All those other, the things that we see and the reasons, community policing, which are valid reasons, but I'm worried about how we're addressing it. There are too many examples the world over, and in Africa in particular, about arming groups like this and creating institutions like this, right? It will come to a time, I worry, that these groups will be the basis and the bedrock for the regions to face off against one another. It almost looks like regions are arming their own forces
to become powers of themselves
and can be misused. It is really, really worrying for me.
All right.
Not can, will be misused. We have at least 4 state governors right now who have gone after people who have opposed them, including one of them, Cross River, who accused dissenters of treason. So the fact of the matter is, and this is where there's a quandary, these security outfits will be misused by the governors. I have no doubt about that in my mind. However, the government's primary purpose is provision of security. And the federal government has failed woefully at that. Nigeria is a killing field. Most of us sit here in Lagos
and don't
realize how bad things are out there. I think all you have to do is drive up to Ibadan and then slightly outside Ibadan towards Oyo town, and you would see how frightened people really are. So it's a paradox that we know that the state governors are going to abuse this, but the federal government has proven to be incapable of securing the country. So who are the people that the people see can reach very easily?
Supposed to be the governors.
It's the governors or their local government chairman. So there's actually a demand in various parts of the country for some sort of security outfit to secure people's lives.
Yes.
It's a paradox that we must acknowledge exists.
All right, thanks, Cheta. Lukman from Bagada says guns for Motekun will connote state police. Will the same be applied for the South and the Southeast, where the narrative will be changed? Watch as the story will change soon.
America from Momoa says gun licenses. Okay. There should also be training as regards gun handling as well as their temperament. What's their plan as regards abuse or when they deviate from what they're mandated
the ones
to
in
do?
black and blue that have been trained.
For example, land disputes.
Let's not forget that they've also set up an ombudsman to check excesses and corruption in with regards to Amotekun. So we also watch that as well.
All right. Let's move quickly to this next story. The wife of the president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, says that the population of out-of-school children in the north is disheartening. This is a statement that's very familiar. It has been said by so many stakeholders that it seems like it's a sing-song moment. But would her statement make a difference, Cheta, in this narrative?
No.
Okay.
Quite unfortunately, the president's wife she has this reputation among people in the region as speaking only when her interests are threatened. And it's kind of the irony. So, for example, in Kano, quite a number of people told me that one of the reasons why the Emir of Kano, Sanusi, is not having as much impact as we think he is in the south is that people don't believe him when he speaks, because he talks only when either his interests are threatened or he does do as I say, not do as I do,
or he's abroad.
It's pretty much the same ballpark. So yes, northern Nigeria has a serious problem in terms of out of school children. It frightens me. So whenever I'm in Sokoto, I tend to stay in Grand Ibru Hotel. Grand Ibru Hotel has this outside restaurant, and there was a time that I was having lunch and I hadn't finished eating. A phone call came in and I made the mistake of standing up to take the call. By the time I stood up and stepped away, some guys, young boys, as in children who were milling around, fell on the food. As in straight up. This was supposed to be school hours. The Almajirinchi problem is a problem that it stares you in the face. As in the thing is looking at you in the face. And it appears to me that a lot of people from the northern elite do not see this problem. As in they've grown so used to it that it's just doesn't bother them. Now the numbers are there. We have states with 80%, over 80% of their school age children out of school. It's ridiculous. When you take Sokoto that I talked about, 17.42% of the children in school. Take Zamfara, 11.74. How do you have these numbers and sleep at night, knowing that you are actually building major problems for yourself, not tomorrow, but in 30 years' time?
Very quickly, Cheta. So we talked about this issue for many years. What's the solution? If you could give one or two recommendations.
No. This one is because this one affects us.
Thank you.
I will ask you for
a real focus on education, not
a real focus on education. The Hausas have a saying in the Hausa language: build Muslims, not mosques. If you travel from Kano to Dutse, between Kano and Wudil is a distance of 40 kilometers. One day I was counting, and I counted between Kano and Wudil 22 mosques, 0 schools. You can use those mosques as schools.
That's right. And thank you, Cheta, even for pointing out the Almajiri system. A lot of calls to phase it out has been coming in recent years. This next story speaks to inter-country, relations.
Cooperation.
Within the continent of Africa. Buhari sat with most CSOs of the different countries on ECOWAS matters, and they've decided to get resources together among themselves to combat terrorism. How do you see their moves, and what results do you hope for?
Poor countries talking like big countries. See,
when the international community is blocking you off, what would you
international community blocking what off? I beg you. International community is blocking migrants off. They don't want to see us in their country, as in there's a rise in nationalism. That's a reality. It's cyclical. So we're in that cycle. Those of us that come from here, they don't want to see as many of us. The only people who want to see us right now, Canada and Australia, because they were distant. We're going off tangents. Basically, these countries in West Africa, like the failure of the G5 has shown, the G5 group of Sahel countries who eventually needed to run to France for help. They don't have the resources, they don't have the intelligence networks, they don't have, above all, the political will to do what needs to be done. What needs to be done? Take, for example, in Nigeria, we're just talking about out-of-school children. It is this out-of-school children thing that feeds off into Boko Haram, Ansar, all of these groups. You need to do what needs to be done, and you need to allocate resources efficiently. But when we don't even know how many we are in the first place, then we don't know how many people are unemployed, and then you think we'll fight this. All of this is just hot air that we're blowing.
All right, thank you very much, Cheta. Shegun says we do not focus our attention on governors. Even the media is mostly interested in the center. That's talking about education in the north and governors taking actions. Thank you so much for your contributions. We continue this conversation on one of the stories at 9 o'clock for Lagos Talks 901. Please join us then. A big thank you to our analysts for today, Tunde Okufi at Big Hoofs on Twitter and Chxta on Twitter. Thank you, Lagos. We'll be back at 8:15 for the Locker Room 981, where we talk sports with Tega Supreme. Good morning.
The headlines, the stories.
I beg you people should get the head.